Welcome to This Explainer. Okay, today we're unpacking a seriously fascinating approach to retail design. You know that feeling when you walk into a store or convention booth and you just feel completely immersed in a product universe? Well, you've likely experienced the magic of a well-executed merchandising hierarchy. Today, we're going to explore exactly how massive product lines are organized. We'll trace the journey all the way from broad merchandise worlds down to specific, interactive formats like Gachapop, and figure out how to scale product offerings without just creating physical clutter. All right, let's dive right into this. Which brings up a massive challenge, right? How do retail spaces avoid turning into chaotic junk drawers when they're suddenly introducing hundreds of new products? Think about it. When there's this huge explosion of exciting new themes, collectibles, and items, the natural temptation is to just carve out a new little corner for every single one of them. But doing that completely fragments a brand identity. It creates a messy, kind of confusing customer experience instead of a cohesive journey. So the solution to managing all of this exciting inventory actually lies in a very specific structural blueprint. And that solution is this 5-step hierarchy. It's like a giant puzzle, and we start all the way at the absolute top with the overall brand. From there, we zoom in a bit to broad merchandise worlds. Within those worlds, we find our specific themes and sub-themes. Then, those sub-themes contain our carefully curated assortments. And finally, at the very bottom, the nitty-gritty, we decide on our sales formats, literally how the customer interacts with and actually buys those items. Following this exact flow allows a retail space to scale indefinitely without losing its focus. Let's see how this builds from the top down. All right, let's move into Section 1, Organizing Worlds and Themes, Building the Foundations. What's really fascinating here is the sheer scale of these categories. We aren't just talking about individual product lines, we are talking about broad merchandise worlds. Umbrellas like Girly Pop, Crafted Creatures, Fantasy and Sci-Fi, Local Sports, and even one that's currently in development, Coastal Cowgirl. You really have to think of these as the fundamental pillars of the retail space. They are massive, thematic continents. Literally everything else you introduce into the store or booth is going to live inside one of these giant continents. Let's look at how that nesting process actually works. So, within an overarching merchandise world like fantasy and sci-fi, we find specific sub-themes nestled safely inside, things like fantasy creatures, dragons, sci-fi, and even video games. Now, you might be wondering, why wouldn't video games just get their own world right away? Well, video games currently fit beautifully inside fantasy and sci-fi because there's a massive customer overlap. They share a visual language, similar fandom behavior, and honestly, the interactive products often just make total sense sitting right next to dragons and sci-fi gear. By nesting them here, the video game theme can grow and evolve without fragmenting the overall space into a bunch of tiny, disconnected categories. Moving on to Section 2, Gachapop, Format, Not Theme. Let's untangle some confusion here. Okay, this is an absolutely crucial distinction. Gachapop should be thought of strictly as an interactive sales format that plugs into your existing merchandise worlds. It is not a standalone theme system. Let me repeat that. Not every theme is a Gachapop theme, and not every Gachapop concept needs to become a full merchandise world. We have to separate the what from the how. The theme is what the product is. Gachapop is simply how the customer buys it. Just because a theme exists, like seasonal collections or cute and spooky themes, does not automatically mean it warrants throwing a machine in there. So before you ever add a Gachapop machine, you've got to run through this rigorous checklist. Ask yourself these really strategic questions. Does this theme actually have enough small collectible items? Does the element of mystery genuinely make the theme more fun for the buyer? Will customers want to do repeat pulls? And then you've got to consider the operational side, right? Can we build variants, sets, or rotating series out of this? And does it connect naturally to nearby merchandise? If the answer is yes to all of this, then Gachapop can become a fantastic, highly interactive doorway into that specific merchandise world. If not, well, those products should just stay on a traditional display. To really contrast these two concepts, think of a full-themed area, like retro 80s and 90s or retro horror, as relying on display storytelling, multiple price tiers, premium pieces, and decor. They are a destination. Gachapop, on the other hand, is an interactive doorway featuring mystery products and a rotating capsule series. Those retro themes can absolutely exist and thrive without ever needing a Gachapop component. If they do eventually get one, that interactive machine is there to support the world, not define it entirely. Which brings us to Section 3, the reality of space, the ultimate constraint. Let's be real for a second. Activating a sales format like Gachapop isn't just about dropping a box on a table. It comes with some serious hidden physical requirements.
Beyond the actual footprint of the machine, you have to account for customer standing space so they can interact with it comfortably without bumping into things. You need capsule storage, room for refill inventory, clear signage, and vital staff access to maintain the whole shebang. Plus, you need nearby merchandising space when it's appropriate. You might have a dozen brilliant theme ideas, but the physical reality of retail dictates that you simply won't be able to activate all of them at every event or in every store.
Because physical space is a strictly finite resource, it ultimately becomes a ruthless portfolio decision. For a smaller setup, you might literally have to choose only your single highest performing interactive format while leaving the other themes over in those traditional merchandise zones we talked about earlier. Every single square foot of a setup has to be assigned to the format that is most likely to create customer engagement, generate real sales, or build brand value. All right, our final section, Section 4, Earning Category Independence. Let worlds grow. So it begs the question, when does a subtheme actually deserve its own dedicated category name? The golden rule here is pretty simple. Do not just create a new category name every time you add a few new products. A subtheme has to earn its independence. A subtheme must meet some very exact criteria to graduate. First, it needs enough assortment depth, and it absolutely must attract a highly distinct customer avatar. It also has to support its own price ladder, going all the way from entry-level to premium. On the store floor, it needs to be able to physically fill a recognizable display zone. And most importantly, to justify all this investment, it has to generate enough sales data and proven customer demand to deserve dedicated space. If a theme like video games hasn't hit all these marks quite yet, it safely remains inside the fantasy and sci-fi world where it naturally belongs. It can still use a fun gacha pop experience while it's nested in there, but it hasn't earned true independence yet. The world has to grow before it splits. It all distills down to this one core takeaway from our source material, and honestly, this is the golden rule. Build the world first. Add the format where it makes the world stronger. It's that simple. You start with the brand, you build the immersive merchandise world, you nest your themes inside it, and only then do you selectively plug in those sales formats, like traditional displays, mystery boxes, or gacha pop, specifically where they enhance that overarching world. So, I want to leave you with this. Looking at your own merchandise spaces, which of your current product themes has truly earned its independence by meeting those rigorous criteria? And which one simply needs a better interactive doorway, like Gachapop, to thrive right where it is? Applying this framework can completely change how you view your floor space. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. See you next time.